known each other for a long time. We sort of like, oh, what's your company working on? What are you doing? And Drummond introduced us, and we were like, oh, perfect combination. Information cards are data, and the Kynetx stuff is a way to leverage that to create value. So I'm in the valueless business. He's in the business that makes value. So, all right, the last thing I wanted to do, and we tried like the dickens to get a demo going today, and where's Tom? Tom's right here. I think he's still trying. Okay, so we'll do the demo tomorrow. We're running up right up to the wire. But I wanted to kind of outline so all that was very exciting, but actually the really big bang is coming. I started this talk off with click, 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 type, 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 and everyone has a copy but you. Okay, we got that. Talked about that, but here's the new idea. What if, as a byproduct of you going and pouring your heart and soul into each site and filling in forms and choosing preferences and buying music or whatever we all do, what if you got your own data back? So I've been asking innocently on these various mailing lists for years, do you think everybody should automatically own their own data that they, with their own fingers and mice, typed in? And generally the answer is, most people think, Paul, you're an idiot. What a stupid question. Of course you own what you type, and no one, or most people ignore me. But I've been at Berkman, I've talked to lots of lawyers, and the answer is, in almost all cases, it's duh. If you type something, now there are exceptions. If it was a creative work of authorship and you've been paid to do what you're doing, you don't necessarily actually have rights to what you're typing. But that is not most of the time. So most of the time, I think it's true. I'm still waiting to get shot by some lawyer or somebody. I think people should own what they type. And I didn't mean all the derived metrics. I don't mean anything algorithmically determined. I just mean what you with your own fingers and wrists have done. If that's true, then the selector could actually capture that. So that's what we've been working on. We've been working on this for a long time. It turns out to be really hard to do. Because one of the things, as we all know about the internet and the web, I mean, every website invents its own namespace, uses its own terms, and becoming quite an expert at all. Every single website is essentially a schema, in my little way of thinking of it. And so you wonder why there's no data portability. Well, dig into a little, because it's like a Tower of Babel. Everybody's speaking a different language. And then someone comes out with a new standard like, Joe with portable contacts, or Joe the Smart, or anything. And the beautiful thing about standards is there are so many of them, right? There's still vCard and there's the other one. So it's like, it's turned into a fascinating little journey. Usually the simple ideas are really hard to implement. This is one of those. What if you could capture your stuff and map it into a common data model? So we're working on that. And it's an open source data model that even though we've been working on it for a while, it's still somewhat simple. But the demo, if and when we get it going, we'll show you what this means. So in other words, with no user interface, and the user doesn't do anything different than they're doing today, when they type in their first name is Paul, the machine remembers, wow. I mean, your agent, your computer can actually remember digital information. And the other thing computers can do, they can communicate with other computers over the internet. And what this means is that information about me could be conveyed digitally across the internet.
Isn't that a keylogger spy? It sounds like.
Yeah, keylogger. I guess that's all we're building. It's a really fancy, on the up and up keylogger. Yeah.
User control keylogger.
Yeah,
user control.
So a keylogger works at a little lower level than I meant. But we are plugged into the browser and we are logging your stuff. But the whole idea is, I think it's okay to spy on yourself.
Depends on which of your cells you're talking about.
True, and that's actually one of the trickier issues. And then in a single household, there could be many people sharing the same computer. And so there are lots of tricky issues. But just broad stroke, what I'm really excited about trying to do is capture your own identity and social network data in a data model that you could use. And now, this is the punchline, because the demo didn't work. We're going to make that available to Kynetx rules. So what the demo was, okay, so I'll have a demo tomorrow, then I won't steal our own thunder. But so basically, actually, I want to make one of the fine distinctions that's occurred to me recently. I used to think this is self-asserted data, but and it is. What you type, you clearly self-asserted. But in a way,
Was that a managed card or a personal?
we can do both, and both with relationship cards and all with the action overlays, all of the above. We figured, not that we know how to implement the. I explained, we don't know quite how to implement some of it, but for a personal relationship card with the action capability on top, we know. So we think this could be pretty exciting. Here's a few other, in my last slide here, I just wanted to give a few other things we're working on. One of my long-term visions is, we're working with Kim Cameron and company on this information card, and lately I spent a lot of time on OpenID, and there's also don't forget SAML, and don't forget Gerber, and don't forget every other attempt. So what if the end user doesn't care about the technology? We kind of figure that out gradually. And they just want to log in. And so we've been working on how does a human being log into a website? And we started up a working group, a whole bunch of us. And we're trying to think about what the user experience should look like and we've all decided that maybe username and password isn't going away anytime soon. So if it isn't going away and the others aren't going away, then we have no idea how to do this. I just mean on a human factors, how do you present that dialog box to allow a poor human to actually successfully log into a website using a variety of protocols on a variety of platforms. So having failed so much in the security industry for 20 years, trying to get people to use all this stuff, we've decided to start the other way around. So some of us have started a working group at the Kynetx initiative that says, forget the tech. I wonder what the UI would look like that a human would actually understand. And interestingly, it's amazing. And the results are startling. Turns out, don't use words like OpenID, information cards. They don't know what those are. How about account? So anyway, so that's one of our passions, and we've demonstrated at IIW. I assume everyone goes there. I guess it's not Identity and whatever it's called, Phil's conference. We showed an OpenID selector, because if we've got a trusted client, we can run the Kynetx endpoint, but we can also we can actually improve the OpenID experience. One of the problems with OpenID is this paradox. We don't know who you are because you haven't logged in, so we can't personalize the site and show you which ways you'd like to log in yet. So with a trusted selector, it knows who you are, it knows how you like to log in, and it can negotiate with the site and make a beautiful OpenID login experience. So finally, both Microsoft and the open source folks both last week invented OpenID selectors, and just instead of talking about it, we just showed people demos of these things working. Another thing we're doing in 3.0 is we're going to put in like an iPhone app store, we're going to put in a card store. And why does anyone care about that? Well, developers mostly care only if there's a installed base. And what we have a goal by 2011 is to get into easily over 1 million. We think we have figured out how to get there. So you saw a little inkling of it earlier this year with AAA. What we have signed, and we have a signed contract, and we have other things in the works, is much, much bigger than that. Doug.
You might want to be clear to the telecoms of the world that you're not selling cards. Because all those guys want to start a store. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Not retailing.
Right. Well, we might. I think of the selector as this new part of the infrastructural stack, and you can get cards from anywhere, but wouldn't it be awfully convenient if you wanted to get a card that it was right there? So I did mean in the sense of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we're actually talking to some of the mobile players about this technology. So, password manager, form filler, and roaming. Remember I said there's this web service you control in the cloud? Well, what we've done is, as other people have figured out, one of the beautiful things about a client, of the many beautiful things, one beautiful thing about a client is that it can do client-side encryption, which means the passphrase that Phil knows does not travel. It's not a password that gets shared, shared secrets, almost like an oxymoron. He knows the passphrase for his data, and he doesn't tell Steve. I'm finding this hard to imagine. So he doesn't tell Steve, and the data is synchronized into a service in the cloud, and none of our employees ever know his passphrase. So if you actually want to see an example of this, Mozilla Weave, very interesting project out of Mozilla Labs, it works exactly this way. It synchronizes your bookmarks and stuff like that. But if you forget your passphrase, you're out of luck. You can't do a password reset because password reset implies I know your password, which means I can masquerade as you, which means there isn't any security at all. So this is the approach we're taking. It's a little edgy. I got really encouraged when I saw Mozilla doing it, not that well. They're smart folks. If it's going